What's going on, y'all? I'm your boy, Livin With The Mahands, and this is Livin With The Mahands breaking news. Now, as I told y'all last night when we took a trip to Washington, D.C., come ride with your boy again, man. We going back to the White House on this one. I just picked up an updated story about the Justice Department asked court to release Epstein grand jury testimony. This is right here. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. Y'all can see that right there. This is part 2 of what I'm going to be telling y'all today. So before we start this, I want y'all to like, comment, share, and subscribe, man, to your boy Livin With The Mahands breaking news. So as we picked up from last night, Justice Department asked court to release Epstein grand jury testimony. Attorney General Pam Bondi had vowed to ask a court on Friday to unseal pertinent grand jury records amid a political outcry over the Trump administration's actions on the case, July 18th at 6:20 p.m. 2025. Attorney General Pam Bondi speaks to reporters as President Donald Trump listens on June 27th in the White House briefing room. Demetrius Freeman, The Washington Post, by Jeremy Roebuck and Mark Berman. The Justice Department on Friday asked a federal court to release grand jury transcripts connected to the deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein, responding to a growing political outcry over the agency's unfulfilled promise to release more details on the government's investigation of his alleged sex trafficking of minors. Officials cited the extensive public interest in seeking to make public sealed material from the years-long investigation into Epstein, who was indicted in 2019 on the sex trafficking charges, and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of sex trafficking charges in 2021. The Justice Department's filings, which were signed by Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Tab Blanchie, made clear that it may take some time before any transcripts are released, if at all. A judge would have to agree to release them, a process that could take weeks or months. Even then, their disclosure is by no means certain. Grand jury records are shielded by secrecy rules to protect crime victims, witnesses, and the accused, and are made public only under limited circumstances. The filing said the department will work with federal prosecutors in Manhattan to make appropriate redactions of victims-related and other personal identifying information. The department wrote that public officials, commentators, and many others remain deeply interested and concerned about the Epstein matter, and asked the courts to conclude that the Epstein and Maxwell cases qualify as a matter of public interest and release the requested transcripts. The Justice Department's request kept a turnabout for the Trump administration, which in recent days has taken a defensive posture on its handling of the Epstein case. Trump has lashed out at Republicans questioning the administration's actions and accused Democrats of perpetrating an Epstein hoax. But some of his supporters and allies have remained critical. Late Thursday, Trump directed Bondi to seek the release of all pertinent grand jury testimony in the Epstein's case. Bowing to the ongoing fury, his directive came soon after the Wall Street Journal reported that he had contributed a drawing of a naked woman to Epstein's 50th birthday album in 2003. The Journal reported that the letter concluded with "Happy Birthday" and "May every day be another wonderful secret." Trump called the letter a fake and lashed out at the publication. The filings Friday, adhering to Trump's instructions, were submitted in Manhattan, where Epstein was indicted and Maxwell was prosecuted. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's officials in Manhattan declined to comment. An attorney for Maxwell and a lawyer who had represented Epstein did not respond to messages seeking comment. The Justice Department said it was filing a similar petition in South Florida, where Epstein had been investigated and struck a widely criticized plea deal in 2008. That filing was not immediately available Friday evening, and the U.S. Attorney Office in South Florida did not respond to messages seeking comment. The sealed transcripts would constitute only a fraction of the evidence and investigative material that the FBI amassed during its years-long investigation. The transcripts are unlikely to fully satisfy Trump's right-wing base, which continues to call for full transparency surrounding the investigation. It is generally a very, very small portion of any investigative file, said Christopher O'Leary, who spent more than 2 decades as an FBI counterterrorism agent. The full extent of what remains under wraps is unclear. Thousands of pages of documents related to the Epstein investigation have already been released through lawsuits, court filings, public record requests, and the Justice Department's prosecution of Maxwell. Much of what remains, the Justice Department and FBI said in a joint memo last week, has been sealed by courts to protect victims and does not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Bondi and others, through previous releases and public statements, have offered some clues as to what might be left. One of the new items Bondi included in a previous release of Epstein documents in the February was a 3-page evidence log. Sorry, y'all. Detailing items seized during searches of Epstein's properties in New York Palm Beach and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Among them were dozens of computers and electronic devices holding more than 300 gigabytes of data, according to the document. Bondi, in a separate letter to FBI Director Kash Patel, after that release, said the Epstein file that had been sent to her for a review included approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. She accused the FBI of withholding additional files ordered Patel to produce them and later said the Bureau turned over a truckload of new evidence with thousands of additional pages of documents in response to her demand. The letter described by the Journal in its report on Thursday is unlikely to be included or even referenced in any unsealed grand jury testimony, which would recount only sworn statements witness made to the panels that indicted Epstein on sex trafficking charges in 2019 and Maxwell the following year. Trump denied that the document was genuine. The Washington Post has not indefinitely confirmed whether it was authentic. The president on Friday sued the Journal, its parent company News Corp, and owner Report Murdoch for defamation in federal court in Florida. The evidence log released in February also makes no mention of the 2003 birthday album, but it refers to other physical evidence seized by the FBI, including 5 massage tables, busts of female body parts, travelogues, photographs, and more than $17,000 in cash. The index also included a logbook of visitors to Epstein's compound in Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands and several lists of contacts including employees. Several of Trump's supporters have also called for the release of those documents as well as what they think is a client's list that Epstein maintained of powerful people in his orbit who they believe could be complicit in his alleged crimes. Bondi, in a Fox News interview in February, said she had that list sitting on her desk right now to review. But the Justice Department in its memo last week said its systematic review revealed no incriminating client list or any other evidence that would warrant criminal investigation of third parties. That conclusion came after a months-long review by dozens of FBI agents and lawyers from the Justice Department's National Security Division who were detailed to examine the thousands of pages of records and video evidence amassed in the investigation. Senator Dick Durbin, Senator Dick Durbin, D. Illinois, said Friday that his office had received information indicating that Bondi had pressured the FBI to assign approximately 1,000 employees who typically handled Freedom of Information Act requests to dig through those filings in round-the-clock shifts in search of that could be released. My office was told that these personnel were instructed to flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned. Durbin, the top-ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, wrote in a letter to the Attorney General demanding a full account of her review of those files. Representative Dan Goldman, a Democrat from New York, and a former federal prosecutor who has pushed for the release of more records, said Thursday night in a post to X, which is Twitter, that the FBI's wider investigative file would include much information beyond the grand jury testimony that Bondi said she would seek to unseal. Other records, Goldman said, would probably include summaries of agent interviews with key witnesses and seized text messages, emails, as well as additional videos, photographs, and recordings. Goldman dismissed Bondi's move to seek the unsealing of grand jury testimony as a distraction. Nice try at AG Pam Bondi, he wrote. Public suspicion surrounding that the case have created a problem for Trump, in part because several of his allies, including Patel and his deputy Dan Bongino, spent years fanning conspiracy theories about the investigation in Epstein's 2019 death, which was ruled a suicide before they were appointed to their government roles. Since Trump returned to the White House, several of his allies have criticized Bondi, Patel, and Bongino for failing to make good on the expectation that they set that the evidence of a cover-up would eventually be exposed. And as the controversy had persisted, an increasingly irritated Trump has castigated his supporters for their continued fixation on the files and sought to blame Democrats for not releasing them earlier. If there were a smoking gun on Epstein, Trump posted Friday to his social media platform, Truth Social, why didn't the Dems, who controlled the files for 4 years, had Garland and Comey in charge, use it? Because they had nothing. He referred to Merrick Garland, who served as Attorney General in the Biden administration, but it was not clear whether he also meant James B. Comey, who Trump fired as FBI director in 2017, or his daughter, Maureen Comey, a federal prosecutor on the Epstein case, who was abruptly fired Wednesday by the Justice Department. As recently as last year, the younger Comey has sought in court to keep records pertaining to some aspects of the Epstein investigation under wraps in a suit brought by the gossip website Radar Online seeking FBI records. Comey pushed against making those documents public in a January 2024 court filing, saying it could interfere with Maxwell's ongoing appeal of her conviction and subject victims and witnesses to embarrassment and potential harassment. Morgan Vasquez and Derek Hawkins contributed to this report. So, with that being said, y'all, like I said, we took a little flight to Washington, D.C., had to kick down the White House door, you know what I'm saying, to get y'all these reports. Now, we did go right back into it, was a continuous part of what I was telling y'all about last night. You know what I'm saying? So, if you guys like what you heard about this breaking news report from yours truly, Livin With The Mahands, y'all know what to do, man. Come holler at your boy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to also put the story in the description at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, y'all, I'm your boy, the one and only, Livin With The Mahands, and this has been Livin With The Mahands Breaking News. Peace, love, and respect.